Day and night.
Everybody knows that I use this, so I can use this.
I just worry about my.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I need to. Does anybody know how to shut off the volume on your laptop? I always have a hard time with this. It's just this one. That's the one. Thank you. I knew someone knew what they
All
were
right,
doing.
we're ready?
Yes, we can go right ahead.
Jay is over there going like, are you okay?
Yes. All set.
All right, well, good. All right, good morning, everyone. All right, I'm testing this mic, making sure everybody can hear me. Everybody knows that I do this so I can use the gavel. All right, so let's get started. So welcome today. Just a couple things. I'll be doing more explanations because we have a few new trustees and new to the annual meeting, so I'll be a little bit more elaborate on some things, so just so everybody knows. The trustees of the Boston Public Library reaffirm our commitment to racial equity and to principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion more broadly. The library is formally committed to becoming an anti-racist organization in response to systemic racism, inequity, and injustice prevalent to our society. We acknowledge also that the Boston Public Library Central Library stands on land that was once water-based ecosystem providing sustenance for indigenous Massachusetts people, and is a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among nations. We are committed to land acknowledgements for all locations at which we operate. We reaffirm this commitment to set the context for our planning, deliberation, and public engagement will take place from the spirit of welcome and respect found in our motto, free to all. Welcome, everyone. Pamela, roll call, please.
Yes, Jay, can you please upgrade John Heiler for me? Thank you. I just wanted to note that we have a few attendees that are joining us via Zoom, one due to a family death, the other is extremely ill. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. Rhino Ortiz,
Here.
Ball, Berman,
Here.
Canales,
Here.
Cronin, Heiler.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you're here, John. I can see your face.
Sorry.
but can you,
Sorry
just,
about that, guys.
Open your mic for me?
No one
Just
wanted to
acknowledging
sit.
that Mr. Heiler is on the call. I'm looking at him.
Thank you.
Hawkins? Lou?
Here.
Masso?
Here.
Olewala?
Here.
She's here as well. I can't hear their volumes, Jay, just so you know. Rush is doing with budget for the State House. I just want everyone to know that. Tyler?
Here.
Westra?
Here.
And Wooten?
Here.
We have a quorum. I do want to acknowledge that we also have Priscilla Douglas.
All right.
We have a quorum.
All right. So next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? All right, meetings are approved. All right, so the Board of Trustees consists of 15 trustees. All must be residents of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and appointed by the mayor. Trustees hold their office for a term of 5 years until a successor is appointed. As the tenure of Priscilla Douglas and China Tyler come to an end, we want to express our deepest gratitude for their unwavering dedication and leadership. Your tireless commitment to the library has left an indelible mark, and we are profoundly thankful for your service. As you step down from this role, know that your impact extends far beyond this board. You've touched lives, inspired growth, fostered sense of community. We will miss your wisdom, passion, and your wavering belief in our mission. Priscilla, we greatly appreciate bringing other institutions to share their best practices around strategic planning, DEI, including our EDI statement that we have to read now, and community engagement, positioning trustees to be library ambassadors and stewards, as well as increasing collaboration between the library and our affiliates. Priscilla leaves us today, but her dedication to the city continues as with her appointment to the Boston Cultural Council. China, Miss Representative Tyler, who's been a partner with me at the Fellows Athenaeum and will continue her dedication to the fellows in the community in Roxbury. Thank you for bringing the voice of your constituents as we seek opportunities to advocate for the community, especially incarcerated people, and at the Fellows Trust and the Community Engagement Committees. We really appreciate everything you've done for us, and I look forward to our continued partnership. I have left some flowers for you. They match the blanket that I made for you, baby. So thank you. Is there any words that you would like to share with us?
So good morning, everyone, and this has been a true honor. First, I just like to start by thanking Mayor Walsh for appointing me and thanking Mayor Janey and Mayor Wu for continuing to allow me to serve out my 5-year tenure. This has been a tremendous 5 years, honestly exceptional, and I wouldn't have traded for anything. I'd also like to thank every single one of you here. There have been some folks that I've served with in the past that had transitioned out, so I want to thank every single trustee and you being present and coming with all your wisdom and just be in your willingness to want to serve because this is a public service style role. So thank you so much for showing up. To Evelyn and to Priscilla, you two, I've had an opportunity to spend most of my time with you two. And these ladies, I'm quite sure you all know, are both like innovative, fierce women. They are exceptional leaders, and I really enjoyed the partnership and the friendship that I've gained with you both. So thank you so much for this opportunity and for your friendship. To Pamela and David, these two are probably the most professional individuals I've met as far as leadership in a very long time, and I really appreciate you and your entire team's professionalism. They're always on point, they're always available, and they're always transparent when it comes to information, so thank you and the entire team for continuing to show up for the library and for our constituents and for the city of Boston. I really enjoyed many things. I just want to highlight 2 things that I want to just share about the library in general and everyone here. One of them, a funny one, is always getting my name mixed up with John Hyler, so I'm going to miss that. Tyler Hyler, I've always voted for him. Sometimes he voted for me. We had to adjust it, change it, make sure. It's not Tyler, it's Hyler, so I really enjoyed that. So there's that. And on a more serious note, the opportunity to allow for more access to opportunity for individuals who may not have otherwise have access to the library. The library has everything here, literally. I spend more time here now being a past trustee, bring my kids here, bring family here, and I'm able to refer folks here. We have everything. We've tackled so many social issues throughout the time that I've been here, and really honored to be able to allow for folks who happen to be formerly incarcerated to see the library as a place that they call home as well. And so I'll keep my remarks limited and just say thank you so much. This is bittersweet for me, but I'll be back, and I really enjoyed this, and thank you so much for having me.
I'm absolutely delighted to have an opportunity to say fare thee well to all of you and to the library and to this experience. I'm going to begin with thank yous. It's been a privilege to serve as a trustee and to be your colleague and to be the chair. I'm so pleased that Mayor Wu gave me this opportunity to serve the city of Boston, a place that I love unconditionally. I truly believe in public service, and it's the highest calling. And I'm really thrilled that I'll have an opportunity to continue to serve the city of Boston. And I know as trustees, you all share that ideal of public service. So thank you for that. Each one of you has contributed your time, your talent, your wisdom, and your philanthropy to the Boston Public Library, and it really makes a difference. Your continued involvement has led to the vibrance. I'm especially pleased that we have initiated the strategic planning, which is one of the key roles for trustees. And we've joined all of our sister organizations, the MFA, the Museum of Science, the Peabody Essex Museum, in terms of launching our strategic planning initiative. As I look at you as trustees, we've got the right people in the right seats for the right time. And China is agreeing with that as well. So all I can say is onward. To Evelyn, my esteemed co-chair, your impeccable memory for details, appreciation, almost fascination with the bylaws, and your business acumen have provided important continuity and high ethical standards. I know that I'm only one of your many admirers. To David and the staff, you did something during COVID that few institutions were able to do. You pivoted, and you grew the number of BPL cards and involvement. It was so innovative that you expanded the Wi-Fi access around our neighborhoods, branches, so that homebound kids and their family could have access to the library. And after George Floyd, your efforts to be more inclusive, you adopted a robust DEI statement. To Pamela Carver, the clerk of the board, she's also our mistress of ceremonies, orchestrating an array of meetings, and your BPL highlights that you send to all of us now keep us informed, engaged, and allow us to bring our friends and family to the library and to all of its branches. I want to thank the associates, first President Peter Brown and now Alice Lee. We have a close relationship with the associates. They are the most passionate group of supporters of our special collections. And Trustee Joe Berman and Elliot Boswick's leadership of the Special Collections Committee has dramatically changed our relationship. Thank you, Beth and Jared and all the folks that are in your special collections for having the monthly samplers. You know how much I love those. And I look forward to the prominent role that the anti-slavery collection will play in our upcoming commemoration. To the Leventhal Map Center, Emily, Garrett, Charles Cooney, and Ambassador Leventhal and Alan Leventhal, they are totally committed to the success of the Leventhal Map Center and have a big vision for what it can be. As our key exhibition place, the Leventhal Map Center has welcomed thousands of people to Boston and always keeps us among the top 10 places to visit. And today, you're going to hear about the extraordinary current exhibition, Heaven and Earth, that has spilled out into the lobby. So I want to thank our trustee, Kristen Restora, for wearing the two hats, one being a member of the Leventhal Map Center and being a trustee. Well, he's got three hats, strategic planning, but we'll focus on those two hats, so thank you for that. With the mayor's commitment of $49 million to the McKim, coupled with Jeff Hawkins and Paula's capacity to tell a compelling story about the library, we have the foundation for a bright future of fundraising. I'm so pleased that the McKim is going to be realized and that unused space be open to the public. I'm also pleased to say that several of my friends have made charitable gifts, and whenever
I'm with them. They're bending my ear about the social workers, about genealogy, about the programs. They love the library and all of the workshops that are available. I'm so pleased with the quality and diversity of our committees, especially the strategic planning and community engagement. We have deep representations. These committee members are heavy users of their neighborhood library, and they have a unique talent to amplify the library resources. For example, a member of the Community Engagement Committee noticed an unmarked patch of graves in a cemetery near Ashmont. Two members of that committee discovered that the occupants of these graves were from the Home for Aged and Indigent African women, African American women. And efforts are underway now. They're now leading an effort to have the headstones marked and the area be designated a historical site. So our motto, the books are only the beginning. History comes alive in the neighborhood. Our special collections can come alive in those neighborhoods. Our patrons see you and they see themselves. Visibility matters. It sends a powerful message. That is why I'm so appreciative of Mayor Wu's attention to our board and of our staff. So this is not a farewell message. This is fare thee well. Fare thee well, library. You have the right leadership, and you have the opportunity, and we have the opportunity to actualize the ideas on the facade. I know you know I'm not going that far. I have my passport. I still need to get some stamps, but I have a request. One of the most important votes we took as trustees was the naming of the Roxbury Branch Library. Please remember that Roxbury, a Massachusetts Bay colony in 1630, was originally called Roxbury because of the puddingstone rocks. It made it impossible to farm in that area. Roxbury pudding stone is the official rock of Massachusetts. Names are important. And as we go forward, we have the opportunity, we may have the opportunity, we only have 2 libraries named after individuals, but I certainly would like to see Sarah Ann Shaw recognized for her contribution to Roxbury or Grove Hall. I hope you'll remember me as a champion for collaboration, connection, and as one of your key ambassadors for the library. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. We also, so we say farewell, but we also welcome, not present here today, new trustee Jonathan Levine. He's not able to attend the meeting today due to conflicts, but he's the chair of Bain Capital. He and his wife Janine form and oversee the Crimson Lion Foundation that works to address pressing social challenges in the areas of education, community and public service, health and welfare, discrimination and poverty, by supporting organizations that serve to strengthen society through research, innovation, public policy, direct service, and advocacy. So we welcome Jonathan Levine. We still have an open position for a trustee person to be named, so more to come on that. So that is the update around our trustees. Thank you both for coming. I think you said you're gonna leave early? All right, thank you so much.
Madam Chair, while they're doing that, I just want to acknowledge that
Jeffrey.
Navjeet Bal has also arrived.
And Joe Berman.
Yes, and Joe Berman, and also that,
And
for the
Jeff
record.
Hawkins.
and
Yeah,
that
we
the
also
meeting is
got
being-
the-
Jeff was, and that the
We
meeting is being
reappointed.
recorded.
Yes.
If anyone would like to speak on public record, Public comment, I apologize. Please sign up via the chat if you are joining us via the Zoom. If you are here in public, we ask that you sign up at the sign-in sheet in the back of the rooms. We will take you in the order they were received and alternate between both. Sorry.
Thank you so much. All right. No further ado, President's report.
Thank you. John, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think we still need to acknowledge the reappointment of Jeff Hawkins, chair
Oh,
of the
sorry,
BPL Fund
yes.
Board, as well, and the nominations for the officers of that for the chair, vice chair, and clerk. Do we still need to do that, Pam?
Yep, that's
John, we'll
later.
do that in the second meeting.
Okay, all right, but Jeff is going to be staying, which is terrific, and as the chair of the BPL Fund Board, I think that's fantastic. To Priscilla and China, I just want to say it's been a great and heartfelt thank you for your terms at the BPL Board. And you've been a real advocate for so many different things and have helped progress the library going forward. So this is terrific.
My apologies, Jeff.
Apologies for the voice.
Thank you all. And just before giving my report, which I will do briefly, given our full agenda, I, on behalf of the library, also want to read into the record our thanks as an administration to the leadership of outgoing Chair Priscilla Douglas and Representative China Tyler. In addition to the comments we heard today, we, during this tenure, also reopened 4 fully renovated branches: Roxbury, Rosendale, Adams, and most recently the Faneuil branch at Oak Square. And you know, my memory of this tenure is really one that focuses on public advocacy, the power of connecting people and simply showing up, as well as the strengths around community engagement. So our deep thanks to our outgoing trustees and welcome to our new trustee and reappointed trustee. I will now turn to the report that was provided to all trustees. This is a 40-page document submitted to City Council, which is the reason I will be brief in my remarks this morning. But I do think there are some important highlights to report on from the last 12 months, many of which indeed were already reflected in the work acknowledged by our outgoing trustees. From a budget impact point of view, we added 14 staff positions due to city funding over the course of the year. That has enabled the return to Saturday hours at branches, 9 to 5, and the addition of additional bilingual literacy instructors. In addition to the work enabled by the budget, I will run through highlights. So if we could move to the economic empowerment slide, thank you. At the core of our work here is our workforce development plan. And there were new programs attended by more than 560 patrons system-wide in this category. We also, through funding from the Boston Public Library Fund, had 2 entrepreneurs in residence here at the Central Library and across the system, working with individuals who wanted small business and other types of assistance that are related. We also had more than 300 patrons served with career counseling services. Next slide, please. As we also heard, the formal commitment to social service has become a central component of the work that we do. Here at Central, we have a central support team desk. We had drop-in times across several branches and a number of interactions that we document with our unhoused patrons. There have been 229 such interactions to date, several of whom are now on the road to temporary housing to begin with. And we're indebted also to our partners at Pine Street Inn, Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, and the Massachusetts Department of Mental Health, as well as another range of partners. Moving to literacy.
Can I interrupt? Just
Yes.
The community support team desk.
Yeah.
What's the sort of background of the people who staff that desk?
So that's led by our social worker and augmented by the interns who are social work interns, as well as by our community learning team that has the ability to connect people to the right resources. It doesn't have a giant sign over it, as you imagine, but it is becoming a place where people know once it's staffed, they can connect with an individual who could assist them.
Thank you.
Moving to literacy and ESL, we just wanted to point out that this is probably one of the most in-demand set of programs and services across the system, with a range of programs for those who speak English, English speakers of other languages. Literacy, of course, is much more broadly, and you have the details there in front of you. I would move to youth engagement next, highlighting our summer learning, some innovative programs with partners including the Animal Rescue League, Boston Lyric Opera, Institute of Contemporary Art, the Countdown to Kindergarten program, which we've been part of for many, many years, as well as the Future Readers Club and an embracing of the basics, which is a set of principles to guide early literacy standards. On the collections front, some of the innovative programs that were launched over the last year include our Browse, Borrow, Board program, which is now expanding outside of Boston across the state, thanks to our collection development team and other collaborators, which allows riders of public transit easy access to ebooks and audiobooks. We have been able to deliver free access to the Boston Globe for BPL patrons, and our total circulation is tracking towards a 6.2 million number of total circulation. That will be a new record, but the majority of the growth really continues to come from the digital environment. Books on Band, again supported by the Boston Public Library Fund, was our response to the national challenges around what we call book banning, and enables individuals 13 to 26 anywhere in the country to gain access to the BPL's digital collection by simply setting a statement about why they do not have access in their own locality. Very, very important to draw a line in the sand on these efforts. As we think about special collections, we heard in comments from our outgoing chair the importance of the sampler, which really allows us to highlight special collections. We'll hear a little bit from Emily a bit later around the partnership with the Leventhal Map Center and its exhibition. Other highlights include bringing the Boston Herald Traveler Photo Morgue online, new expertise being added to the team, and of course completing phase 1 of the founding research collection. Those materials within our research collection that go back to the founding of the library, that to all intents and purposes today we would consider part of our rare books and special collections holdings. As we bring our equity statement into reality, you will see that reflected in the collection development policy, which you will hear about also momentarily. One other initiative that was rolled out throughout the system was a program around language access, which allows staff at all branches in Central to engage with video remote interpretation to help staff connect with patrons who may need interpretation. We will be proceeding to fill our vacant equity programs position as soon as possible and look to rebuild and go to a EDI 2.0 program, which will, in conjunction with our strategic plan, guide the library into the future. And then the multi-year projects and investments for the year ahead. Just a few notes here for you. These include the Calendar 24 theme of revolutionary music, Calendar 25, revolutionary art, leading to the 250th anniversary in 2026 of Revolution more broadly. Our operational priority will be continue to fill vacancies. We continue to be in the 40 to 50 range of active full-time positions needed to really deliver on all of the work that we want to continue. We will see IT and facilities repair projects throughout the year, and a slate of capital projects that you'll hear about in the context of budget, as well as the McKim transformation and renovation project. Again, a little bit away, but we have a commitment towards it. Sure.
Well, I'm just curious, how are you defining revolutionary?
We're thinking of this as movements within the framing of social justice more broadly. So not just classic moments of the American Revolution and so forth, but more broadly to give voice to acts of rebellion, social justice, protest. Again, relevant to the time, but commemorating history at the same time.
So more of a small R than a large R?
Yes, yes, or both.
Okay.
And we thought we would do something different. We have in the past brought objects or digital representations of objects from our collections. We often give you a large number of numbers or a rundown of activities. But what we wanted to do today was actually bring our some of our recent additions to the staff to come forward and meet you. And we will be meeting 3 individuals today, as well as 2 more in the context of the collection development policy presentation. And so now I'd like to invite Michael Colford, Director of Library Services, to present one or both of our new staff members.
I'll switch out with that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good morning, trustees. Nice to see you all. I'm here actually representing Anna Fahey Flynn, who is our manager of the Central Library. She could not be here today. Anna has been, in my estimation, in my long years here, the person who has truly most accurately embraced the role of manager of the Central Library in exploring the best way to provide public service in this building, from everything from looking at the wayfinding, making sure things are clean and in good repair, or looking at the services and making sure the services are in good shape. In addition, she oversees several departments, so she's very, very busy. So we had the opportunity when we moved the BPL tour program from special collections to library services to create a new position, and I'm very thrilled to introduce you to Catherine Mitchell, who is our visitor experience coordinator, and I will let her say a few words.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what I've been working on. One of the things that I've been collaborating with Michael on recently is reactivating the Disability and Access Committee, which right now is working here at Central. We're about to bring in folks from the branches as well to think about the physical access of the space, but also to access to our resources. So I've been grateful to collaborate with Michael on that. I'm also working with Anna on wayfinding and thinking about how we're increasing access to the resources at the library and making sure people are aware of what they can access here. Additionally, I've been working with special collections on interpretation, both of the building, but also of the collections that are on public view. So thinking about the way that people are moving through the space and learning about the BPL's history as they're coming through the building. And as Michael said, I'm working on the tour program, so I'm getting to know the tour guides and the history of the tour program, and then also working on expanding both the number of volunteer guides that we have giving public tours, and we've just piloted tours for grades K through 5 and 6 through 12, including tours for families so that kids can come with their parents on tours.
Thank you.
And good morning, trustees. I think this is on. I'm Beth Prindle, Director of Research and Special Collections, and I'm delighted to introduce the newest member of the Special Collections team, Emily Bibb, who joins me today. I think, as many of you know, we've been on a wonderful trajectory of building capacity and expertise within our Special Collections team. Emily joined us in January as part of our arts department, which oversees our prints, photos, fine arts, music. We have an enormous collection of prints and drawings totaling over 130,000. Our curator, our longtime curator of prints, retired last year after more than 35 years of service, and we are delighted to have Emily on the team with us, bringing her own expertise and interests. So I'd like to have you talk a little bit about your work.
Good morning. As Beth said, I'm Emily Bibb. I'm the new curator of prints and special collections. Every day has been adventurous so far. And really that's part of what's so exciting about this position is this incredible collection that the library has. And as I'm still feeling as though I'm learning something new every day, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But the incredible part is also sharing those things that I'm learning with our patrons and hopefully expanding the access to our prints collection, which is incredible, but often overlooked, I think.
Any questions from trustees for our new employees?
I'll ask a question. So for both of you, same question. So what is the biggest challenge in your role?
I think for me, this is both a challenge and also a real opportunity, is that a lot of the tour guides have been here for a very long time. So they have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, and also sort of thinking about the ways that we're going to potentially change the tour or rethink the narratives that we're telling or expand the narratives that we're telling. Working with them to get them on board with that has been a challenge. And their wisdom and all of the knowledge that they have just from being in the building over the years has been an incredible source of knowledge for me.
I feel like I'm going to be repeating myself here. But obviously the size of the collection is a challenge, and as we're moving towards making our collections database active, finding things is always a challenge too, finding specific things, but it's also a discovery process. And so every day I'm making new discoveries and sharing those. And I think that that's both challenging and incredibly rewarding, because, as I said, I'm learning new things every day, which is a great way to engage with one's work.
Thank you. Questions from trustees? No? Thank you both.
Thank you all. My next bullet calls for some key operational updates. This is the mundane part of the presentation where I just let you know of some critical work that's happening behind the scenes. And so this is mostly focused on the Central Library, but there are a number of repair projects underway that hopefully will stay in the background, but may affect our ability to deliver public service. Those include repairs to elevators in the Central Library, which is important for Catherine's work in the visitor experience. Door repairs, which are significant and important as well, but leading up to a major repair on our loading dock, which is on the Blagden Street side. That loading dock repair is right above our mechanical room, which is the power plant for supporting the entire building. So you may notice that the temperature is not as ideal today as it might normally be inside the building. And basically that is because the mechanical room disruption means that we have no heating and cooling for the next 2 weeks. So right now we'll be living with these conditions, and the project is going on schedule, and we expect to have heating and cooling back online the first week of June. So just want to let you know that this is not normal, but this was a critical matter that needed repair. Yes, and as I noted earlier, the other operational challenge continues to be filling open vacancies to deliver on all of our mission and the work that we want to do and that our colleagues across the system need in terms of having full staff so they can be confident in their ability to meet the needs of patrons. That work also continues. We met 2 members of our staff from the Central Library. We will continue meeting members of staff from branches as trustees. Meetings are held also in branches throughout the year. And now I would just like to invite Emily Bibb on behalf of the Leventhal Map and Education Center to tell us a little bit about Heaven and Earth.
Yeah, delighted to be here. Thank you. I just want to start by recognizing the tremendous support of the BPL, the trustees, and the Boston Public Library Fund for the work all the groups do to support the Leventhal Center. We're proud to share the library's free-to-all mission and to work closely with everyone in the building to make an extraordinary, one-of-a-kind cultural and educational institution in the heart of our city. And as the project manager who put up this show, I will also note exhibitions are the definition of a team sport, and the BPL, there were departments across the building that aided in making sure this thing got up successfully. So I just want to say a blanket thank you to so many people who were part of this. So on May 11th, we opened our newest exhibition entitled Heaven and Earth, The Blue Maps of China. The exhibition takes visitors on a tour through space and time, all the way back to China in the 1200s and out into the cosmos. The exhibition centers on two large-scale maps printed in the early 19th century in China. And when you visit, the most striking thing about these maps is their color. They were among the very first printed items in East Asia to use the colorant Prussian blue, which later becomes famous in works like Hokusai's The Great Wave off Kanagawa in the following decades. Looking at these maps is an invitation to contemplate not only their visual beauty and the remarkable story of how they were made, but also profound questions about place and time, about how different cultures see the world around them. We hope you'll stop into the gallery soon, and we always welcome the opportunity to give tours to trustees and anyone else who's interested. The exhibition will be on display through August 31st and is open free to the public 6 days a week. You can also see we've got a very robust digital exhibition for this show that includes much more text that couldn't fit on the labels in the gallery that's available online. And I'll also just make a quick note. I know Priscilla's not here, but I just wanted to say on behalf of the entire Leventhal Center leadership, just say a quick thank you and a note of appreciation for her work as chair of the BPL Board of Trustees over the last few years. The chair also sits in an ex officio role on our board, and we've counted ourselves lucky to work with Priscilla in this capacity. So we look forward to working with the next chair as well. With that, I know Pamela sent out a few photos. The spilling over into the lobby, we were able to work with our colleagues both in visitor services, so I was able to work with Catherine. We're trialing a little lobby display here to activate the area outside the Commonwealth Salon, which I know many of you know well from committee meetings, but to add a little color there and being able to show reproductions that had a little interpretation outside of a space that is highly trafficked in the building.
Thank you so much. That's great. And certainly while our own major exhibition space continues to be offline, we rely on both the opportunities in the Rare Books Special Collections lobby on the 4th floor for some smaller exhibitions, but also deeply on the gallery in the Leventhal Map and Education Center space for exhibition possibilities. So thank you.
If I may just jump in briefly, Emily, thank you very much for coming. And for those who haven't been to the exhibit, it really is a beautiful collection of maps and an amazing story that's told. If you could maybe just give us a quick sense of the amount of people that you would expect to come. Priscilla alluded to the fact that this is really the key exhibition space currently, and David just made a similar point. And how many people would we expect to go to this exhibit? How many have we seen historically in similar exhibits?
So during the summer months, I think across the library, numbers go up of visitors that are coming in because they're visiting in town. So normally, summer months, we expect between 6,000 to 8,000 people a month to come through. That's been kind of the historic average. We're getting, I think, now back up to where we were pre-COVID in terms of visitorship numbers. We've sort of gotten there after 3 years of being back open. So I think that's probably a pretty consistent estimation for this summer. It'll be open right at the highest point, and then we'll close it to open our next show that'll open in the fall.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And now I will ask Beth to come back to the table, this time with a team, to talk about the collection development policy, which will be for you for a vote to approve. And we are doing musical chairs this morning. So.
Hello again. I'm going to kick this off very briefly. We represent 4 members of the staff committee who participated in the rewriting of the collection development policy. This is a process that replaces a policy that is over a decade old, and we will introduce ourselves individually as we go through the slides. So I'm going to turn it.
All right. Hello. Excuse me. My name is Celeste Bukikio-Chowdhury. I'm the children's librarian at the Roslindale branch, and I've been deeply involved in collection work through this committee and also the Equity in Collection Development Committee that was part of the EDI process that we were going through. So, the purpose, you all know what the purpose of a collection development policy is, but we wanted to really highlight in this policy, bringing it into line with the equity, diversity, and inclusion commitments that the library has made, the racial equity plan that was put out. The 10-year-old policy did not have any EDI language in it whatsoever, so we really wanted to address that. We wanted to make sure that it was transparent, so both staff and community who had questions about why we collect the things that we collect would have a place they could go for answers to those questions. Obviously, it provides guidance for staff who are purchasing items for their various departments, and also wanted to make sure that it kept us in compliance with our commitments as the Library of the Commonwealth, and that we need to make in order to get state aid to the library.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Michael. I am the Community Learning Reference and Workforce Development Librarian. I will be going over the collection categories and criteria. To put it simply, our collection categories are easily broken into 3 areas. We have circulating, which is our popular collections. These are our high demand, things you find on the floors. We have our research collection, which stands more in line with things that are high use for the purpose of specialized in-depth research, and they're being considered for preserving. And then we have our special collections, which have been harped on a lot today, but they are, highly celebrated as rare and valuable items that hold so much use and value to our library, that take a little special TLC and care as we attempt to bring these items to the public. What we truly wanted to focus on in the collecting criteria is, first off, aligning it with the BPL's mission and our community needs and suggestions. Considering diverse and underrepresented voices within our collection, as it is something that EDI, as stated earlier, is one of the high value goals, and finding an assessment process that is based on significance within our collection, demand of the item, and content quality. This goes along with transparency, making sure that we're picking things that are scientifically accurate, things that have high value, and finally paying special attention to the accessibility and longevity of the formats we choose, whether they are in print, whether they are digital, or whether they're something we're partnering for.
Hi, my name is Melissa Andrews. I am the Chief of Collection Management for the BPL. So when we say that the collection development policy is something that is meant to support staff and provide transparency, I think day-to-day in a practical way, staff would use this as we deal with challenges and questions as to why we have certain books in our collection. As David said earlier, we want to draw a line in the sand and have a clear stance about our commitment to intellectual freedom, freedom to read, and the right of everyone to have access to materials that they can enjoy and read without any sort of judgment or endorsement of the library. So going through this policy as we wrote it, we were very conscious of the challenges that were happening around the country. We have not experienced that same challenge here, possibly yet, but I do think what we have seen is an increase in patrons asking why we have certain materials. So it was really important for us throughout this policy to state our views very clearly and to reiterate that we are not responsible for the reading choices of minors. That is up to parents, that we would never not give a book to a child or not purchase a book because of content that might be in the book. We would never limit our selections based on the viewpoint or background of a creator. The library does not endorse the content in our materials. We have millions and millions of items and cannot personally uphold every idea that's in a book. We also took great care to try to prepare for any potential of challenges from outside organizations that may be systematically challenging materials. So ensuring that materials, we would only review challenges from Massachusetts residents who are our base, that we would limit the number of times we'd look at books over and over, as that's a huge impact on staff time, and also making sure that if a book was challenged while it's reviewed, we would not remove it from the collection and patrons would still have access to that material.
So as you've heard, we're really big and a really complicated collection. We total roughly 20 million items, spanning from what you can bring home to things that would be considered rare, unique, invaluable. And how we approached this collection development policy was, how do we create one that is universal to span all of those collections one that is succinct enough that we can convey it effectively both to staff and patrons. The copy that you've received was 5 pages. That was the product of 10 rounds of versioning, and really, if you look at this timeline, roughly 2.5 years of work. We started with, this conversation really happened in 2021 with the Collection Equity Working Group. Our current policy is over a decade old, and as Celeste mentioned, really had some noticeable gaps that we needed to address immediately as it related to meeting the needs of our community and meeting our responsibility for EDI. In fall of last year, we created a process to get to the point we are today, which involved over 100 stakeholders through staff and stakeholders in various committees and communities so that we could review this policy. We had staff listening sessions. We have a staff committee of 11 people from across the system. There are 4 of us here. Who participated in multi-hour drafting sessions. We circulated this policy to our leadership team, to our legal team at the city, to our various collective bargaining units. The Special Collections Committee reviewed this. Joe Berman, I'll ask you if you could just comment on that in just a moment. And in addition, the staff, we've had 2 staff Q&A sessions within the last several weeks, and over 70 staff members participated. That's an incredible return on sort of the collective investment that we have in making sure that this policy meets the needs of our communities of users. And we are before you today for a review and a vote of the policy itself, recognizing the work does not end. This is the overarching public-facing document that will be the basis upon which we create all of our operational procedures and processes for the various types of collections we hold. So in some ways this is the end, but it's also the beginning. And so Joe, you had wanted to speak a little bit about the Special Collections Committee.
Sure.
And their role.
Yeah. So as you'll know from reviewing the policy, it's a general policy that really addresses all 3 categories of the collections in the library, but specifically with reference to the special collections, as you know, there's a committee of this board that I chair with Elliot Boswick Davis on special collections. That committee devoted basically the entire monthly meeting in April to a review and discussion of the policy, and I think I can speak for everybody. It was unanimously endorsed and approved, recommended with respect to those aspects of the policy that pertain to special collections. And what we're really talking about, sort of the nuts and bolts of it, is guiding the special collections. What do we want to take in? Because people offer to give us stuff all the time, so we need some criteria in order to do that. And then, on the flip side of that, as any professional will tell you, the strength of a collection is really based on how it de-accessions. When does it decide that it no longer needs something? If there's an opportunity to do that, are there chances and opportunities to de-accession? And one of the things that this policy will allow the staff, with our oversight, to do is decide what no longer belongs in the collection. Are there things that we should maintain and things that we shouldn't? And then finally, in sort of the long time frame between acquiring and de-accessioning, how we maintain, how we collect, and how we catalog and display all of these items. So I think the Special Collections Committee had a robust discussion at our meeting, and as it pertains to our sort of smaller portfolio within the general collection, unanimously endorsed this.
Thank you, and I'll just sort of follow up with that. One of the core elements in all of this, and we talked about consistently in the group, was transparency, being explicit about the why and then being explicit about the how. And I think it was an incredible opportunity for us to have a conversation across the system. I would just like to highlight the staff members who participated in that committee. Again, you will see they are from across the system with various roles and responsibilities. I want to thank personally all the members of the committee. I found it to be one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in my tenure here at BPL, and I feel really proud of the final result. And it's been great, and we kind of wore matching outfits.
We do what we can.
Beth, I have a question for you. So, a couple of years ago, we had challenges from librarians in terms of the process of acquiring and recommending and suggesting. I would imagine that that came up on this listening sessions.
And I'm going to ask Melissa and potentially Celeste to talk about that too.
Yes, so I do think we are constantly still having conversations around that. There were challenges, and I think we did implement some process changes immediately at the time around those concerns. We do give branches discretionary budgets that the branch librarian can assign throughout the year to build their collections. I do think that how we approach selecting is something that will always be iterative. Publishing changes, our community needs change. There is a balance between being able to efficiently buy something system-wide and giving space for branches to really shape and build local communities as needs evolve. And I do think we're not done, and we will never be done as that work, as we continue to do that work. Is there anything?
I mean, I think that about covers. I think one of the key points is that this is the policy of the why and some of the how, but a lot of the details of the how are still to be iterated in those further documents that Beth mentioned in terms of procedural, operational things. I think, all of us across the library are really, really very passionate about the collections that we interact with and the communities that we interact with. And I think that is a real strength of this system. So those conversations will always be there. And I think our hope as we were writing this policy was that it would give the staff who are asking questions about how we're doing things, some of the answers that they seek, and also ways to further engage in those conversations.
No, and appreciate the process of the inclusiveness of the staff, because it avoids, the churning and the noise. So I do appreciate, the listening sessions and listening to so many, because it comes with different perspective. So thank you for being inclusive and transparent.
If I could just add, I think Melissa's being a little humble in her report of the work that her team has done over the last year and a half in particular, in bringing about a character of listening and inclusion and finding willing interlocutors in branch staff, central staff, special collection staff to really ensure that while there may be tensions between a centralized purchasing department and branch needs, the most important thing is to be in dialogue with each other, and she and her team have brought that at new levels into this process. And I think we are seeing this in this committee's work as well. There are other great examples in the system, but this certainly is one of the most inclusive and transparent staff processes that we have had. I think you're nodding, so it sounds like you agree with me.
I mean, full disclosure, I have been part of the hubbub that raised concerns a couple of years ago, right? That being invited to be part of this process after raising noise several years ago about how things were done was both just validating that my voice does matter, and it does, that people are listening, and I think, honestly, the level of inclusivity in this process is a model going forward that we should replicate in other system-wide processes, in terms of including people, from branch and central, but also from management, from frontline, from back of the house. It's a huge organization, and most of us don't really understand the work that is done by colleagues who do completely different work than us. And so being able to talk to each other has been really great.
May I build on that point? The observation that I was going to make, but I appreciate that you just made the point that you made. The observation I was going to make is I thought this policy was just superbly well done. It was thorough, it was thoughtful, It evidenced the kind of care that you described, and I'm just so appreciative for the level of time and effort that went into it. The piece that I was going to pick up on was the point that was made that the policy that existed before from a decade ago really had no reference to any commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that was a real effort that you made. And I think the point that you just made, that we can have all these statements that we read at the beginning of a meeting, but at the end of the day, it's how that gets translated into the work of the institution that really matters. And moreover, when you do the work well, it's uncomfortable. It's going to create the kind of churn that you describe. It's going to make for difficult conversations. And I think it's an institution's ability to lean into those discussions when these kinds of EDI, DEI statements really then get tested, and are we really committed authentically to that work? So I really appreciate that you shared that anecdote, because I think it really speaks to the authentic expression of that value in this policy. So thank you very much.
Can I just follow up on that? It's an excellent point, but the thing I was thinking about when you were talking about the challenge is obviously having the touchstone of the document is really important, but along those lines, these policies are implemented by human beings, by staff members who might have, feel their own feelings about it. What support do we have in place for the staff, either review or otherwise, to make them feel comfortable as they're making these difficult choices?
Thank you for bringing it up. That's a great point. I do think we have been thinking about that and having more formal trainings where we talk to staff about reiterating the goals and policies that are in this document, also giving them opportunities to role play and practice when somebody comes up and says, why do you have this book? Ideally, it should never get to the point where somebody fills out a form. Every single staff member should feel confident to articulate and reinforce our institutional goals around these things and have conversations with staff. If that initial conversation does not go well, the collection development team, myself, we are certainly able to take phone calls from patrons. We have had many emails with patrons. I think for the most part, what patrons want are an answer. They want to be listened to. They want to understand that they have a voice and their concerns can be heard. Ideally, we should have something for everyone. So even if a book is not for them, we should have 5 others that are. And that's what we try to convey to patrons, that we have something for you, regardless of where you are in any sort of political or learning spectrum.
Do you mind if I also... one really important thing that has come from this entire process is making sure that we're using data-driven EDI practices while also following a host of different EDI implements that have been coming out of the research for library science from either the ALA, from our community organizations, or through our unions. And one thing we noticed, and has been brought up multiple times, is the supporting documents to this. That is probably going to be one of the biggest things, is making the supporting documents for each category to allow for more input and to answer those questions, and to make those documents based purely on the data and demographics that we are collecting and that we are researching within EDI and our own system, to make sure that we are hitting those touchstones while also providing a space for that emotional impact that a lot of this labor does onto our frontline staff.
I think we are ready for the trustees to call for a vote to approve the policy.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? All right.
Thank
All
you.
approved.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
And that concludes the president's section of the agenda. And I believe, Madam Chair, we're moving on to Strategic Planning Committee updates.
All right. Christian.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be able to provide a brief update on the strategic planning process. I'd like to begin by thanking my co-chair, Jose, as well as the other trustees who serve on the Strategic Planning Committee, and the staff led by David. We're really incredibly thankful to David and Sarah and Lisa and Michael and Jennifer from Rosendale for all of their very rich perspectives that they've brought to this process, which we really truly have endeavored to make as inclusive as possible. What we'd like to do today is hear from Patricia Noble and Margaret Sullivan from the Gensler Margaret Sullivan team about where we've been so far, what we're seeing, where we expect to go. I think what you will hear is that we have been making progress. There have been a number of extremely productive workshops with staff, with leadership, with the various affiliate groups, the Friends, the Funds, the Fund, the MAP Center, and we are coming to a point where we are beginning to hear common themes, common perspectives. This is one of a series of updates. As the process continues, we will continue to update the board. And of course, all of the members of the Board of Trustees are welcome to attend any of the Strategic Planning Committee meetings. So with that, I will hand it over to Patricia and Margaret.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. And indeed, as Christian said.
I'm sorry, do you mind just speaking up a little bit more? Thank you very much.
Let me know if you can. It's an honor to be here, and as Christian said, it's a collaborative process. So I know many of you in the room have been very closely involved in this as well, and we have Margaret on the phone. It's a process that started in January, and I think as the conversation we were just having right now, the value of listening to multiple stakeholders and multiple voices before we come into what was the vision has been a powerful and process. So I'll let Margaret speak a little bit to some of the voices we've been hearing before we jump into where we are.
So nice to be with you all from Zoom, and what a joy to be part of this meeting today. It's just very inspiring, and the work y'all are doing is wonderful. The iterative and highly participatory process that we've engaged in is yielding some really great work to clarify some of the questions that we heard from you when we began. What is the business that BPL is in? How will BPL position its services in the future to generate the greatest impact? And how will we clarify our role, both for ourselves and for our constituents? We have had 2 workshops with leadership and 2 workshops with staff that have culminated in a joint workshop. So you see those represented in these bookends of images. So as Patricia is saying, a strategic framework is taking shape that has been informed by a series of exercises incorporating institutional aspiration, community needs, and a study of community alignment, most specifically in alignment with the mayor's initiatives. Additionally, we'll go back to that previous slide. Additionally, the 2 workshops with the strategic planning group have also served to enlighten and garner critical guidance from community leaders and dedicated trustees, and another acknowledgement of Priscilla as part of that group that have served on this committee. And finally, our meetings with the fund, the 11th Fall Map and Education Center, and the foundation have generated some great insights and takeaways that all have the aspiration for that team sport work that was acknowledged earlier today for greater integration and collaboration going forward. So what we're focusing on today is the strategic framework development of what we're calling BPL strategic roles. And we wouldn't be doing strategy work that's collaborative without a lot of sticky notes. So you can see how the sausage gets made and how we take a significant amount of complex insights and start to organize and frame them around what we are calling the emerging opportunities and BPL's roles. And you can see how some of those strategic roles were being developed. We had names: Cultural Commons, Lifelong Learning Partner, Welcoming Destination, Community Outreach, Growth Catalyst, Social Advocate. All of those have been evolved and shaped to be even more customized for BPL's vision from the staff and the leadership and the constituents. So we've also been studying many maps of Boston that have a lot of different socioeconomic factors. But this one is the map that we're starting with. That's really just, it's a wonderful tool to both affirm and start to reveal opportunity. What you all know is that given the city's density, but more importantly, the strength of the reach that you all have, there is such an opportunity for your system-wide network of facilities and services to really reach almost all of the residents of Boston meaningfully. So the work that we've been doing is also incorporating that they're a system-wide approach to clarity of purpose and impact, as well as how can we also create a tool and a framework that enables customization across the diverse communities that make Boston such a wonderful, vibrant, diverse city. So with that, I'll hand it to you, Patricia.
And that's been a big focus, I think, of the work as we're thinking through what is BPL looking to do as an institution, but how can it also really embrace this idea that Boston is so heterogeneous and the needs are not universal, and that there aren't going to be the three things that we as an institution need to do that will help every single resident. I think we have a density of branches that's powerful, right? 73% of Boston residents are a 15-minute walk from a public library. Like that access and that reach, but that diversity of needs is really specific by these different locations. We want to celebrate and enhance that and not gloss over that. So it's really about finding that balance between what are those strategic priorities that will help us push forward and making sure that they're not 87 priorities. What are those priorities and that there are roles here? And then how do you actually use this not to be only a framework, but a tool that will lead to action and that will lead to measurement, and we can measure impact over time. And that's the part that we've been really excited. Today we're going to talk mostly about those strategic roles as they're emerging. But as we look at the major frameworks, to really define what is the mission, what is the vision, what are those core values, and then in turn, what are those strategic roles? What you're seeing on the screen is an emerging piece. Every time you show it to you, we show it a little bit differently. We heard a few more voices. It continues to mold, to evolve, and I think that's the beauty of it. This has emerged from those multiple conversations, and it'll continue to morph and change and evolve. But the powerful 6 roles that have emerged for the library have been this idea of being a cultural storyteller, right? It's honoring the multiple cultures and the multiple collections through the multiple collections and programs. It's this idea of lifelong learning partner, inspiring this love of literacy, of research, scholarly exploration. Creating a welcoming destination that's celebrating library as a place that is a third home for folks to be able to come in, but also not only to bring in, but to also extend our arms out and to reach out. So that's the community connector piece. It's like, how do we outreach? How do we engage and meet communities where they are? And then the last two, this idea of growth catalyst. How do you propel personal growth, fulfilling each individual's greatest potential? And this idea of social advocacy. How do you connect people to resources and the social services they need to support their needs and well-being? As we're going through these and evolving these and continue to hear this, have we missed anyone? Are there spaces that we continue to grow? I want to show how we're thinking of this as a framework, but also as tool. And Margaret, feel free to jump in here as well. And I think we're particularly excited about this is to be able to then use this framework as an assessment piece to tell, how are we doing? And this solution will look different branch by branch. The solution will look different team by team, the digital reach, to say, how are we doing in telling the multiple cultures and stories? How are we doing in terms of propelling personal growth? And then to be able to compare and say, but for each branch, what are the things that will have the highest impact? And this is the part that we're really excited about. So in these 2 diagrams, it's really the gray space that becomes the most interesting space. It's the gap between where we are and where we could be. And we're looking at this tool to say, how can we explore where we could be? And should we all be at the same spot? And that's the part that, this, it's just merely illustrative, this data, just to show a little bit the concept of where we're going with this, but to say, can we look at this branch by branch, team by team, and say, what are the things that would have the highest impact to the communities you serve? And for some communities, really focusing on the social advocate will be the thing that will be the most transformational. For others, it might be something else entirely different. And be able to gauge what is the map that says, this is your map of impact. And each one to have their own fingerprint of, say, for Roslindale, for instance, this is the fingerprint that's, just as an example, that's on the screen. This is the fingerprint of what would have the highest impact. And then how are we doing today? And looking at those gray spaces, saying those are the gaps. excited to also continue to map these over the years and say, how are we doing 2024? Do it again in 25, in 26, and see how these colors map and show differently. So excited to have your thoughts and perspectives on this as well as we continue to evolve. But really excited to set this framework, or what are the strategic roles the library has to fulfill? And how does that really translate into measurable impact to every community in Boston?
Thank you, Patricia. So I think we should think of this not as a draft that is iterating in a linear format, but rather these are just emerging thoughts,
That's exactly
themes, framings that have happened so far. And that we'll get to the work ahead in a moment, but I'm certainly personally excited to get to one more level of outreach around community partners and community users much more broadly. So that is yet to happen, and so that will also help iterate these concepts. A light bulb went off for me, I think personally, at one of the more recent meetings where, because this wheel of whether it's 4, 5, or 6 categories that we end up with could be applied differently as the needs change by location or by function, we actually have a way to celebrate the uniqueness of individual neighborhoods, communities, or functions in a way that doesn't force everything into a single set of standards. So that to me is like, that both is celebrating uniqueness but still having consistency, but at the same time giving us tools to be able to say yes or no to things, but differently within a consistent set of standards. So I'm actually really excited about where that part is heading, but obviously we're just at the end of data collection and iteration. We're not in plan development.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, David. I would just echo that this is not the strategic plan. This is not a draft of the strategic plan. This is really a synthesis of what we've been hearing from people and the common themes that have been emerging. And I think what you're hearing, and David echoed the point very well, is that it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all view, that there will be different needs for different branches. One of the things that I'm excited about is the next step, and how we refine this, and how we think about things like what our mission statement should be, whether that should be refreshed, how we convey what the new plan is in a way that is simple and understandable to people, given all the varied programming that we do. And so this is really just an update as to where we are in the process. There's certainly a lot more to come. And I'm not sure if there are other comments.
And Christian,
that's maybe a segue too.
Yeah, and Christian and David, sorry, excuse me. But one of the things I was wondering with the future impact and the community connector and where they are, neighborhoods in the city of Boston, neighborhoods have changed through its history, and sometimes very quickly. And thinking about being nimble to the needs of a neighborhood and how quickly they can change, and trying to figure out how you make that switch or get the things that a newer neighborhood or a new change might need. Is that kind of a question that's been asked, and on how flexible or how quickly something could move at a branch, because sometimes it can move a little slower. And if a neighborhood does go through a transition, how quickly, and is there a process in place to meet those needs?
I mean, John, I can predict based upon where I see this going, is it gives us a set of tools to be able to respond to changes in neighborhood demographics. I think we have great data that we have shared with the Gensler-Sullivan team around our reach statistics for the last several years. And we know from looking at those that not every neighborhood is coming back in exactly the same way to library usage post-COVID. So we can contrast pre-COVID, post-COVID, and now. And the other sort of layering that happens is clearly, when you renovate a branch, it provides incredible opportunity for re-engagement with the community. We've most recently saw that Rosendale and Faneuil Square, Faneuil at Oak Square to name just 2 examples, where communities deeply embraced their renovated and reopened branches, but isn't in exactly the same way as it was before. We know Mattapan has a strong story, but on a slower pace of re-engagement post-COVID. So I think this gives us potentially the framework to have those conversations about what's happening well, what's happening more slowly. We know that several branches, it's more about computer access and Wi-Fi access. For others, it's much more about book borrowing. For others, it's much more about programs and space usage. So where this is heading, it gives us the flexibility to have that. Where I think part of your question is also going is, could it possibly give us a framework or conceptual model to talk about a Fenway community or a Seaport community? Maybe.
Yes.
We'll see.
Great, thank you.
Christian, may I?
Yes, please.
Grateful to be part of this process, and I think we all recognize the unique context and the opportunity and the inflection point we're at. I think my question may set you up for the next slide, but is more for the benefit of the other trustees is, you know, what does a great outcome of this process look like, right? And I think we on the Strategic Planning Committee have a point of view on that, but you and David have had the benefit of talking to the staff and other constituents. So maybe you can help us articulate that.
Yep, I'm happy to jump in, but I also want to give Margaret a chance if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I think with storied and beloved institutions, I think, one of the things that we are aiming for is that there's a galvanized invigoration and renewed energy for folks to get excited about how this great institution, this infrastructure that's been in place for so many years, can really galvanize its strengths with great energy, and that the folks at BPL are really excited about that work. So I think that's one of the things that we look at as a successful outcome. I think the second is that there is a clarity both in language and the understanding of the why. I loved hearing earlier today about the collections folks saying, we really need to know the why. And that is understood by every single person in the institution as they develop the language to talk about what BPL does and what it's going to be doing for the future for the communities.
Yeah, I would reiterate the clarity piece and also the measurable impact, and having the balance of those, having really clear objectives and then be able to measure what impact did you have to the communities we serve. And the clearer the vision, the more able you're going to be able to actually measure something and see what impact. So I think ultimately it's about impact to the communities. You don't get there without that clarity piece, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Ray. To me, the greatest measure of success will be if more people see the library as a place that can enrich their lives. I think, put simply, that's the goal to me, to get more people understanding how the library can make their lives better. And I think that comes with conveying the amazing programming that the staff are running, the amazing resources that are available, and positing it in a way that's very clear and engaging and exciting to people.
I would just add, from an operational point of view, the most commonly articulated desire, whether you're a member of the BPL leadership or a frontline staff member, is clarity. It's just clarity. Why are we doing the things that we're doing? How do they fit into the overall narrative? And do I, as an individual staff person, see myself in those principles? So, it would also clarity, not just in terms of what we do today, but what we should be doing next, because it will give us the tools to say, okay, this opportunity, this partner makes sense because it fits into this model. Mission, vision, values, strategic framework.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Looks like on this framework, you're evaluating, how branches are doing, like different aspects of the library, fill in that gray. So am I safe to assume, and he's going to smile on this, is that generating somewhat of a scorecard? Or is it a little bit of subjective?
It is, it's a scorecard where you compare yourself to yourself.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's not a scorecard where you compare yourself to another, because the metrics of success by branch are so different and what impact. So it is, and I think it's powerful. I think it's a scorecard in the aspect of measurable impact, where you say, this is where we see ourselves today. Then you reassess next year and say, this is where we're seeing ourselves now after we have implemented these programs. or we say no, we're actually see that we're, so I think scorecard's a tricky word, I think, just in the sense that it feels like it's good and bad and metrics driven, but I think, yeah, it starts to set up a
because I mean,
framework.
if you're, the reason I ask is you're showing me a framework, and
That's
then
right.
there's,
That's right.
you know,
It
color
does.
and there's gray.
That's right.
So, you know, color should say, well, I'm here, but I want to be
I
here.
want to be here. That's exactly right.
So therefore,
It does
that's
do
why
that.
I
It
mentioned
does.
scorecard,
Yeah,
because it's
it
like,
does.
how do I know? You know,
That's
I play
right.
golf. I want to be at par, under par. It's only on my
That's
own.
right. I think it's-
Never get there, but I try, right?
Yes, yeah. I think as long as it's with oneself, and that it doesn't become
Just like
a-
golf.
That's right, just like golf, exactly.
I do think some of the grays may be blank for certain areas because it's not
applicable
it's not
or not,
applicable.
or it's not important.
Which is
for-
what these whiter zones are, right? Just where not everyone is necessarily trying to fill the full circle.
Right.
You kind of define what's the circle that you're looking to fill. As an institution, we're looking to fill the full circle. As an institution, we're looking to deliver all of these things. But it not be that in every segment or department or location does all of them in the same way.
Unlike golf, where you need to be good at driving and putting and the whole
That's
whole
right.
shebang.
And the chipping and the.
But when you look at the BPL one, we do want to finish the whole circle, right? And when you do a broader assessment.
I just want
Thank
to
you.
make mention of the time. We are about 15
Yep,
minutes behind
any
schedule.
questions for the strategic plan?
Let me talk in 1 minute just about what's next. I'll skip this one, but I just want to share with you that now there's a process of validating some of these things through data and through voices. So we're really excited to have every single staff member involved in this process and have them and hear from their voice and saying, what's the impact you feel to the communities that you specifically know? I think there's a know-how there about what are the communities we're serving and are these the buckets that would have the highest impact in transformation? And we're also connecting to the mayor, to the city of Boston more broadly, continuing to have, I guess this board meeting, and engaging with strategic partners and bringing other voices into the table beyond outside of the library as well.
Thank you.
All right.
We have a brief interlude. Maybe, Michael, you could come forward and give us just maybe 1 or 2 minutes on this concept of a 21st century library. This was something actually our outgoing chair had challenged us to think more formally about, because one of the metrics for where we should be headed in the context of the strategic plan is BPL a 21st century library? What would that mean, and how many of these things are works in progress? So we have a little interlude basically on this concept.
Sure, thank you. So that was good context. It was brought up at one of our strategic planning committee meetings. I think I made the statement that we are a 21st century library, and we got into a little bit of a conversation. So the question was posited, well, what is the criteria for a 21st century library? I have a few issues around that whole concept because we are now in 2024. We're well past the turn of the century. We're well into the 21st century. And it's not like libraries or any institution every 100 years says, okay, what are we going to do in the next 100 years? It's an iterative process. We're always evolving. We're always moving forward. I like to talk a little bit about a timeline because in the early 2000s, you may recall, we went through a Great Recession, and lots of people were wondering if libraries were even relevant anymore. And that question was being asked. Budgets were being slashed. Over the course of the 2000-2010, Boston Public Library made great strides as one of the leading public institutions embracing digitization, and our digital services department was created. And in that respect, we started our journey to become a 21st century library. We were one of the first, if not the first, to offer a free e-card for anyone in the state that without having to come in and prove any identity or anything like that. So the whole piece as we were adapting, I feel there were two major moments in the last 10 years that really propelled us into fully embracing what we might consider a 21st century library. I think the renovation of the former Johnson building, we put a lot of effort and thought into, as we renovate this building, how do you want to do that in service of the services we want to provide the community? And so that renovation was transformational. Those of you who remember it, you would come in, you would grab what you needed, and you would get out because you didn't want to spend any time there. But now it's people come and they stay for a long time.
Do you want me to show that slide?
No, that's all right. That's fine, yeah. And then the other piece was the reinvigoration of the Boston Public Library Fund, because that gave us the opportunity to really start exploring a more entrepreneurial way of exploring services and the services that we weren't able to support through just the city budget. Things like career counselors, social service providers, more literacy support. Those are the areas that we see were important moving forward in the 21st century. And if we can quickly go back to that first slide, and I'll just quickly point out a few of them. So these are a few of the places that we have explored what are the characteristics of a 21st century library. You can read them there, but just a couple of them. That whole third space idea, we're battling an epidemic of loneliness right now and isolation. The library is now a much more social space. Whether you're actually engaging with the people around you, you are here in a space with other people, so you are connecting with other people. We look at services now more holistically. This is around personal services. Building better citizens is a phrase that one of my staff once said to me. And it's really when people used to come into the library, you would answer the question they had, and that was it. You wouldn't go any further. Now you're trying to provide services more holistically. What are their actual needs? What are we actually trying to provide for them? What are their goals? And helping them do that. And then our equity with digital collections and collections that are responsive to community need. That's very well represented, for example, in the collection development policy that was just brought forward. So these were just some ideas that David and I kind of threw around. And then after we did that, I looked up, what is the definition of a 21st century library? So Edutopia calls it providing a welcoming common space that encourages exploration, creation, and collaboration between students, teachers, and a broader community. And I said, that's great. That's actually what all those criteria kind of feed into. So I think we're really a 21st century library. I think the whole idea of the strategic plan will help us to prioritize what our specific community needs. I don't think any strategic plan is going to show us something like, oh my God, we never thought of that. We should be doing that. It's work we are listening to our staff is listening to the communities. We're always iterating our services. I think it will help us to prioritize and to focus some of the work that we're already doing. Happy to answer any questions, but that was kind of the thinking we did.
Any questions?
No. Michael is on the strategic planning committee, so all of that gets filtered in there too.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question? Pamela, you mentioned we're 15 minutes behind schedule, and for those of us that are, have a tight schedule this morning, if you lose one more, and I know you have a series of votes coming up.
Yes.
So can you just be clear with us about
Yes, a
how
lot of
long
the
you
votes
need a
will be
quorum?
taken. I have the votes written as a slate, so we just have to review the ones that are one-offs a little bit, which will be like the mayor's budget, things like that, that take a few more minutes, and that, I just wanted to keep you on task.
Okay, and in the second meeting as well?
That takes, the second meeting will fly through, but we also have to allow for
Okay,
time for
so we're
public
going to
comment.
end on schedule.
Correct. I believe we are moving public comment to the end of the second meeting to keep the
Okay.
votes on time and not to
Thank you.
lose.
I just don't wanna
because
leave
need
you
to
without a
keep,
quorum.
track of
Our quorum is still 8
Yes.
trustees.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Just
I'm
so
watching
everybody's-
it.
And we have 2 online currently still.
Oh, okay, online, okay.
And they do count.
Okay.
All right. The numbers. So now I'm going to wear my,
Did you want to just note the NEPC?
can I do my thing? So, all right, so now we move to the numbers. So NEPC, they are our advisor for investments. There was a recommendation to move $3.5 million to global equity. So we interviewed, which is part of our process, we interviewed 3 global equity managers, those being Artisan Global Opportunities, Generation Global Equity, and 91 Global Franchise. And the committee selected Generation Global Equity. Their approach is very thorough. Not only they look at the returns of the companies, but they really do take a deep dive into their management and operational, and they have very thorough approach to evaluating companies that they include in the portfolio, and also the diversity and inclusion of the company is very commendable. So also they have a lot of focus on the impact in the environment, and by that meaning not only that, they look at companies that deal with, environmental issues, but also that the companies themselves are environmentally friendly. So the vote was for Generation. We're very pleased with the selection, great contenders, and we're in the process of investing in global equity. In terms of, I want to have Emily talk us through the budget, which sort of that towards the tail end of the process. So if you want to walk us through the budget real quick?
Absolutely, thank you. Good morning, trustees. Just quickly walk through where we are with the status right now. Earlier in April, the mayor announced her recommended budget for FY25, and then earlier this month, our team went to a budget hearing with the city's council as well. Overall, it's a really strong budget. We're very happy with it, and it's going to allow us to continue to do our work as well as opportunities for some growth for next year as well. This first slide is just a basic summary of the recommendation. I do want to point out it's showing a 1.4% increase overall. Operationally, it's actually closer to a 4.5% increase for the library. That's due to some changes in utility estimates, some budget lines as well that are going to be budgeted centrally rather than through the library's operating budget. So again, about a 4.5% increase. Let's see here, this slide is some of the increases that we're expecting through the mayor's recommended budget for next year. Some of it maintenance level, some increases to our security contract, some other maintenance contracts and some salary increases as well. The mayor's recommended budget did touch on 5 of the investment initiatives that we'd requested for our FY25 budget. And those focus mainly on infrastructure, so some IT and facilities security investments for next year. This next slide here is a summary, quick summary for the changes. Again, the 2 largest decreases that you're seeing here, one is a decrease in the estimate for utilities. That's mainly due to energy efficiencies, and then oftentimes it just has been over budgeted, so they're taking a look at that. And then the current charges line as well, you're seeing a decrease there. Those are for some of the items that aren't directly related to the library's budget, but they're being taken out and centrally budgeted with the city.
What's an example of some of the?
Renew Boston is one, Read Boston, and Renew Boston Trust.
Boston Saves.
Boston Saves, I apologize. So those have.
So these are programs that were mayoral initiatives in past years, and the funding for those programs came through the library's budget essentially as a pass-through item. We had actually no direct control or oversight other than fiscally of the program itself, and they have now been relocated to where they more properly belong, if you will. And so they look like decreases in our budget because that money is no longer there at that level.
Oh, you didn't really have any expense associated with it, so it's a relief.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Thank you. Next here, a summary of what we're anticipating for the next 5 years for capital budget planning. Again, really strong, shows an obvious commitment to the library throughout the city. David, is there anything you want to touch on this one?
I just will note that once again, this is the largest capital budget in the 5-year plan in raw dollars that we have seen, totaling $214 million over a 5-year period. In particular, we have referenced the $49 or $50 million allocation for the McKim Transformation and Renovation Project, with the understanding that the vast majority of that would not become available earlier than year 4, year 5 of the current capital plan. But it is a public, strong commitment to the project, and I look forward to working with even more so with Navjeet Bal, who chairs our trustees McKim Capital Project, as well as with the Boston Public Library Fund in particular. We ultimately see this project as being a collaboration between the city and the state and private philanthropy, and maybe the federal government as well, if we are lucky.
Lastly, here is a breakdown of our external funds. This breakdown oftentimes gets questions due to the fluctuating dollar amounts. I do want to point out FY22 and FY23 are the actual spends for the year. FY24, what we're anticipating for this year, and then same with FY25, what we've budgeted to come in from the external funds for next year.
All right. Any questions around the budget?
again, just the other sources, the drop-off there, is that part of what you were talking about earlier, Emily?
It's not actually. So these are external funds that are coming in. Other sources is a bit of a mixture of some pieces. It's some revenue from the events. I think it's some smaller donations that are coming in. Jane, anything else in that group?
I think when you see the FY24 actuals become available later this year, you'll see a number in the updated budget that is much closer to the FY22, FY23 actuals. So we, from a review of the spends and budgets, do not see any problem here, although it clearly looks like there might be one. But at this point in time, we don't have anything specific to report on.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we need to take a vote.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? Budget passes.
And of course, this budget enactment is subject to City Council approval, which they will be presumably doing by June 30th.
All right, so the next set of contracts, and we'll vote it as a slate. I'll just explain it real quickly. So the first one, it's the city the city includes about $300,000 in our operating budget for critical repairs. So that's what that's for. Then we have the next one, which is just allowing the library to just purchase books through the procurement. Next one is the trust. This is so the Fellows Athenaeum's Trust. I'll give you a quick one around that one. These are monies that were given to the library from the Fellows Athenaeum back in the 70s. And we are guardians of that money. They are for instructive purposes at Roxbury Branch, because that's where the Fellows Athenaeum was. So we have a committee that has members of the public, and every year we launch an RFP process for the community, adults, children, seniors, you name it. And then we get distributions from that fund, and then fund different programs that we go through a thorough RFP and voting process. So that's what that is. It's basically allocating the distribution of that fund for the committee to approve programming of instructive purposes in Roxbury Branch. The next one is just a delegation of contract approvals to the Finance and Audit. So this is sort of a gap measure, because the trustees are not meeting until the fall. So if there's anything that happens in between, it gives the Finance and Audit the authority to approve any contracting that may come in an urgent fashion. All right, any questions around those? And if there isn't any, can I please get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstains? Any noes? All right, we pass. We have, I know this is very far in advance, we don't have a crystal ball and know the future, but these are the proposed dates coming up for our meeting schedule. Of course, they're all subject to change.
Please note 2 of them are in remote locations in the afternoon, just so that everyone is mindful of that.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. All right. Can we take a vote on these dates? Can I please
So
get a
moved.
motion?
So
Second?
moved.
Second? Oh, so moved.
Second.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? All right.
So moved.
All right, any new business? No?
Nope.
All right. We're gonna move the public comment to later so we can finish with the, all right, so we adjourn the first meeting and we start the second meeting as a corporation.
Do we need a move to adjourn?
She just moved to adjourn it. Just want to note, we are going into the second meeting.
We're going into the second meeting?
I am acknowledging that I do have a quorum of the roll, looking at all of the roll call.
All right, so we start with John Heiler, Governance Committee.
Great. Again, just want to mention again the nomination of the new trustees, the reappointment of Jeffrey Hawkins, chair of the BPL Fund, and the appointment of Jonathan Levine, chair of Bain Capital. There is one more the mayor's office is working on, which as we move further along, we'll find out about that new trustee and keep everybody posted on that. We have Jonathan Levine's bio, so please take a look at that. But for a vote, what we really need to do is to go through the officers for the 2024-2025. And we would like to put to slate the nomination of officers as the chairman of the trustees, Dr. Ray Liu, vice chair, Evelyn Arana Ortiz, and clerk, Pamela Carver. We need to vote that the trustees of the Boston Public Library of the City of Boston approve the recommendation of the Trustees Governance and Development Committee for the officers of the trustees of the Boston Public Library of the City of Boston, of Dr. Ray Liu as chair, Evelyn Arana Ortiz as vice chair, and Pamela Carver as clerk for a period of 1 year from May 2024 through May of 2025. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Any abstain?
Any
Any
abstentions?
opposed?
Any opposed?
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Evelyn, thank you.
more enabling votes. All right, and this is, and we're voting as a slate.
Yes,
Okay.
as long as there's no one's opposed to voting it on as a slate.
All right. So some of these, you may say, it's like, why do we need to do this? These are based on recommendation of legal counsel. So these are things that we must do as a corporation. So the first one is to enable votes for signing payrolls. And I'm not going to read every bullet. The other one is around accepting gifts. And this is important because, like I said, trustees don't meet every so often. So you don't want the library to be holding on to checks for a long time. So this enables that, if they accept any gifts, allows them to deposit and process the gift properly. Distribution of income. This is around the trusts, being able to take, money from the trust and distribute as indicated. There's also an annual trust distribution that it's ongoing, especially at the Trinity Church. So this also allows to just receive those gifts on an ongoing basis to that particular trust. And then, like I said, trust funds take distributions and then disperse them appropriately. Any questions about the enabling votes? And if there's any, can I please get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any nays? All right, passing votes.
All right, so moved. We are going to go back to public comment.
Public comment.
Okay, we only have one online and we have some in person. We're going to start with Ann Langone. She is on the Zoom call. Ann, we're going to open your mic. We just ask that you keep in mind that you have 2 minutes to speak. I will warn you when we reach the 2-minute mark, and go right ahead.
Of course. Of course. Am I ready?
Yes, go right ahead.
So, thank you. My name is Ann Langone. I am a children's librarian at the newly renovated Faneuil Branch in Oak Square. I'm also a member of the Boston Public Library Professional Staff Association. That is the union for librarians and for professional staff. And we are in the middle of a contract negotiation, and that's what I want to address. So I was heartened to hear the BPL DEI statement again. And in fact, the whole meeting has been about DEI and the importance of it, and we couldn't agree more. But we also agree that the EDI is important for the employees and the members. And I want to talk about 2 diversity proposals that we put on the table that the city and the library is not only refusing, but in one case is actually ridiculing. We have a proposal on the table to allow members who celebrate non-traditional holidays to get holiday pay for that. And these are only the members that celebrate it, right? We are professional librarians. We're not crooks. We're not crazy. We paraded one member after another who gave gut-wrenching testimony on the importance of the celebrations, because either it's their personal celebration for their whole life, or maybe they've married into a family where it's a blended family, and it's important to the family, and the fact that they cannot get holiday pay or even the assurance that they can have these holidays off. Remember, we're the librarians that are putting up all of the, all of the book lists and the book displays and the programming for these celebrations for other people. And in fact, the city and the library ridiculed us, accused us of looking for extra vacation time, made light of the fact that our members, in some gut-wrenching testimony, were serious about this. So we really want to hammer that home, because obviously this is not right. My second point is that we have a proposal on the table to pay a differential for our members, and there are not many of them, who are fully bilingual, bicultural. In most cases, this is the native language. We paraded our people up again to explain about how difficult it is to be the only Portuguese speaker, the only Chinese speaker, the only Spanish speaker. Okay, 2 seconds. And it is difficult, but the library actually, at this point, is saying that they will not give us a differential for these members. Now, both of these proposals, the library and the city, have other unions that they have these agreements with. So this is not unheard of. But the library's response does not include DEI for us, the employees who actually work with the patrons. And honestly, please rethink this, because if you don't respect us as the employees, and you don't respect our equity and our diversity and our inclusion, then you can't possibly be respecting the members that we serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Next, I do want to move on to those that are here in person. I have some, if you cannot come down to the microphone, we can certainly pass it up to you. Please let me know if you need us to pass it up to you. The microphone is down here. First, I have Ali Hahn. Next, I have Puck Malamud. And then I have Alyssa Kadilik. Okay, perfect. Does anyone else need us to move it up? There was another sign-up also. It was Ali. Amy Layton? Nope, I don't have, but, oh, sorry, Amy Layton. Yes, I'm so sorry. Yes, I have you. I read you as Ann Langone. I apologize. So it's Ali, Amy, Puck, and then Alyssa, in that order.
Good morning. My name is Allison Hahn, formerly more affectionately known as Miss Allie. I'm the children's librarian out at the Brighton Branch Library, and I am the vice president of PSA, the union here that represents some of the librarians, curators, and other staff here at the library. I am here mostly to pose rhetorical questions at you, because I thought of quite a few of them as we were watching this presentation. Some of them you heard from my colleague Anne, that we are working so hard to get to our patrons, to reach our patrons and materials in their home languages, while not doing much to retain or attract librarians who speak other languages, who already face barriers to getting degrees in those languages. We are not doing enough to bring them in, keep them here, and make this their home too. We've had many resignations in the last couple of weeks, one most notably being Taylor Morris, the social worker that we are praising very much in our slides, who left because a different library offered her a more competitive salary, a better benefits, a better situation with her benefits, and more support than we are receiving from the city of Boston, who denied our request for a second social worker. That is all in the budget that we are voting for. The staff we are deeply understaffed. Even when we are full staff with no vacancies, we are understaffed as an institution. Other public libraries of our size and our caliber have almost triple the amount of staff that we do. We cannot do outreach if we are chained to a desk every day, because there are not enough of us to safely keep a building open. I work in a 5-floor building who are told regularly 3 people is enough to keep a 5-floor building with no sight lines open, while also maintaining the level of programming and excellent customer service we are able to provide with our staff of 8. I would like you to think about the way that frontline staff are the ones who are implementing our post-COVID, whatever that means, our post-COVID programs, the EDI programs, and we are the ones reaching those communities where they are at without the resources, tools, or funding that we need, not just as staff, but for the programs, the books, and all the other initiatives. People love to come and sit in the library, and yet Brighton's request for more furniture to accommodate that has been denied at every level. We need more shelving at Brighton. We have display shelves that cannot be built. Those requests are being denied. Frontline staff keep asking for help, and we are denied. I am asking you as the trustees to please think about, when we look at a budget, it is very big picture. But on the ground, the people doing the work of bringing the library into those communities, we do not have what we need. And I encourage you to visit your local branch and ask that staff, what do they really need? Because I can tell you, frontline staff are not looking for clarity, we are looking for help. Thank you.
Very much. Next, I have Amy Layton. If you guys wouldn't mind coming down so I can cue you right up. Next, we also have Puck, and then we'll bring that up to you, Alyssa. Amy, you have 2 minutes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. So I'm Amy Layton. I work at the Parker Hill branch, and I'm also a member of the Boston Public Library Professional Staff Association. I do have many concerns with how our money is currently being spent because it doesn't seem like it's being spent on the frontline staff between our PSA and AFSCME members. It isn't on necessary repairs, and it is not on programming. We have expanded Saturday hours, even though there are 40 vacancies in the system. We have expanded service offerings in languages other than English, not that any of my PSA union colleagues will be receiving a stipend for this knowledge. And circulation has increased by 6.2 million items this year. But our budget increase is expected to be $9 million less than that of the Boston Police Department. Who is actually benefiting from the budget increase? We receive lackluster support when we are crying out for more staffing, better safety, and better opportunities for the public. The City of Boston is asking us to do ever more with increasingly less. How can we better the experience of every single person who walks through our doors when staff morale is this low? I would like you, the trustees, to really ask yourselves how you can support the library that we as staff have made it become. You say the library has everything, but the city does not treat us like the backbone that we are. In hurting us, the city is hurting our patrons and our citizens. So I ask again, who is benefiting from this budget and who isn't? Because it's not the staff who are actually making a difference in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I have Puck.
Hi, everyone. I'm Puck Malamud. I'm a cataloger and classifier upstairs here at the Boston Public Library. I'm also a member of the Boston Public Library's Professional Staff Association. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to draw the trustees' attention to the interconnected issues of wages and understaffing at this library. We are wildly understaffed to the point that morale, especially in the branches, is at a nadir. The current vacancy list does not accurately reflect the true understaffing at the library, and this level of understaffing will continue until wages increase because nobody wants to move to Boston at the current offered salaries. My department, cataloging and processing, has just lost yet another serials cataloger candidate because of the mismatch between offered salary and cost of living. When we bring up these issues at the bargaining table, the city representatives point out that we are some of the highest paid city employees. So think about that. If we're struggling, what about our colleagues? We need, and our AFSCME siblings need, wage increases that at minimum meet inflation, not to mention the increasing cost of living. Without staff, the library is just a building. Every year that the administration and the city fails to show true material support to library staff, we lose good people, like our social worker Taylor Morris, who single-handedly ran the social work program at the library and whose recommendations to improve staff morale have been repeatedly ignored. Every staff member we lose is a real loss to the communities we serve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Amy. I'm sorry, Puck. Next, Michael, will you bring it up to Alyssa?
I'll bring it back up.
I got you.
Sorry, just give me 1 second, Alyssa.
All right, no problem.
Go right ahead, you have 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Puck. My name's Alyssa Catalick. I'm president of the AFSCME Local 1526 bargaining unit. I stand before you about a couple of things that were discussed today and presented to you. We talk about equity and staff development, and you've heard some of my fellow union folks talk about being inclusive. And yet, each trustee meeting where staff is introduced, we only introduce a select few who seem to be at a high level or seem to have some specialty. We don't introduce every new employee that's been hired, and that's a deficit, and it also does not speak to our equity and inclusion of everyone, from our custodians to our clerks, to our drivers, to our IT folks, to our frontline staff. Everyone is part of the library community and should be recognized when they start. You heard about our vacancies. We have 9 vacancies in the facilities department alone, some over a year empty. When the city looks at empty positions that haven't been filled for over a year, they tend to look at them and think, we don't need them. One of them is a brand new position, with my understanding, that is a traveling custodian for the branches, dedicated for the branches, which has not even been presented to the union yet. It was just talked about. That is one of the 9. We have branches without custodians. We have daytime custodian positions that are unfilled, and our buildings are not to the standard that they should be. And our facilities department is being asked to work without coverage, without support, without any of that. And that is appalling. I also heard Priscilla Douglas talk about the Roxbury branch. Sarah Ann Shaw was a big part of my life in the 31 years that I've been here. She stood up at everything. You know, we talk about her accomplishments outside of the library, but certainly within the library, I know she touched a lot of lives. I know that on June 24th, I believe, there's a gala at the Roxbury branch, of which there will be a portrait of Sarah Ann Shaw. And I think that is an excellent time for this Board of Trustees to talk about whether or not a section of the library or the art gallery area is named after her as a representative and a reflection of it.
Thank you, Alyssa.
I have one more, 2 seconds. I also, Can you grab that for me? Usually I have better memory, not today. I also echo my fellow union just with the holidays. We also have put across, and I'm not going to talk about contract, that for us this is not the place, but I will say that I know that the Boston Public Schools have for their employees the representation for the holidays. If we want to be inclusive and truly inclusive, it can't just be Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas. You know, I get the day off, but the holidays that I might represent are my members, and my members represent, they are the diversity in the library still. They're the ones that suffer from that. And so I urge this Board of Trustees, if you truly want to represent what you start every meeting with now, think long and hard about what you are doing and how the morale for the employees who work to make this library a great library. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That concludes public comment.
All right. We adjourn then.
Is there any new business in the second meeting?
Any new business?
None.
No? All right. We adjourn. Thank you so much. Have a great summer.